It's another edition of Tea Time. This is Michal.
Woo!
She's back and better than ever.
As I always am.
Hey, God is good. Anyway, so we did tell y'all we were going to give you a part 2 about like PWIs, universities, college life, all that jazz, all of it. So we're back. I cut you off when you started talking about community. Do you want to pick up on community, or do you want me to? Okay, here I'll say.
Yeah.
That I think community is vastly important. I think that's just what you look for at that time of life anyway. Like when you're first leaving home and you're first trying to figure out what it is that you identify with, what identifies with you. Like I remember going to so many different kinds of things when I was in undergrad, just trying to find what space belonged to me and what space I belonged to, and never really feeling like any of them were all me. Like feeling like some spaces were too white, some spaces were too nerdy, some spaces were too hood, for some space. Like I just never felt like I felt like I had to join like 6 different things. And that's what I did. I've always been that kind of person. Where I joined like 6 different things. So I was like, okay, well, I like that I can be my theater self here. I like that I can be my black self here. I like that I can be like my book loving self here, like movie loving, like just whatever it is. And I do think you're right that you have to actively seek out community.
Yeah. It's just like my first year, it happened during COVID, and it's like it felt very lonely.
Yeah.
Because even though I had my roommate and we were close, it still was, there was nothing else, kind of. And it was just like, so why am I here?
Yeah.
Like, I could do this at home.
You should give them background.
Yeah.
About the fact that LSU made you.
Yeah, LSU has a requirement that all freshmen stay on campus. So even though this was like 2020 into 2021, so it's like COVID was still rampant. And still, like there were no in-person classes. Even like the dining halls had, like it was only like to go, I believe, for a while. And it wasn't only in my second semester, so in 2021, where I had like 1 in-person class. Everything else was like on Zoom, and still like the dining hall still only had to go, but you had the option to sit in. So it was like half to go, half sit in, but you couldn't do, after a certain amount of people were sitting in, you had to leave. So it was like, there wasn't a lot to do. You didn't find any clubs, you didn't find any community, and you just had to go to class and stay inside, which wouldn't have been too bad if like you had other people to be on Zoom with. Like, after you left class, you just left.
Yeah,
that's
true. There's no community building.
Yeah, there's no standing around. Like, I just found out there's a creative writing club as an English major. I should have been, like, that should have been one of the first things. They would have been like, hey, we have this club, we have this club. These are all sections for English majors. Like you can do this if you're not, but, you know, at least give it out to the people who are obviously interested in it. Yeah. So it was just like, and they did Zoom. Like, they were on Zoom doing their meetings. I could have been doing that, right. But you didn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
So you feel very, like, ostracized from the world. And then it gets worse when you're a black person at a university, because they assume that you're not interested, because there's this thing about black people only doing certain things. Like, it's weird. It's very, like, very... ostracizing is the only word I can come up with.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine having done my undergraduate experience during COVID. Like, because it was so important for us to just be in space. Even if I had friends who were not doing anything related to what I was doing, but you were just studying together just because you needed that to, like, survive. And I will say that my undergraduate experience, I am way more grateful for now that I'm here, because I just feel, I've said it, and I said it the other day when I was like, but we were like on LSU's campus and we were playing around, and it was like 3-4 o'clock in the morning, something like that. and there was like nobody out. There was like no movement, and this place just is so dead after like, I don't know, like 11, 10 o'clock, in a way that's
it gives
weird.
Nursing home.
It gives very odd. It's like, I was like, this place feels like a holograph or something. Like it's this weird simulation, because we were in college. We all, like you said, we lived on campus.
Mm-hmm.
So we were out, we were throwing balls around. You could hear people screaming. Even if it was annoying, you still, the place had life. And this place is odd. I have never felt a college campus feel so dead and so like lifeless. And I do think that the pandemic and like living in and through and of the pandemic shows you the importance of community.
Mm-hmm.
It shows you that you really do need spaces and places. Like the pandemic was really, really rough for me, because at the time I didn't have a lot of black friends, and I didn't have a lot of black friends who identified as black. Like they were more like, oh, I'm just a being, you know? And I'm like okay. That doesn't really help me, as I'm like watching these like BLM marches and trying to figure out like what, you know what I'm saying? So I had read in a book somewhere, which I love her, but she was like, I always look a little bit off at black women who don't have black women, friends. I was like, oh my God, people are going to be looking at me and they're going to be like, well, where are your black lady friends? And I'll be like, oh, I don't have any right now. And they'll be like, yeah. And I didn't mind it when I was in undergrad as much. I was just like, I just want to find people who don't make me feel bad, pretty much. But as I like kind of got older, I'm like, okay, I need people who can relate to me. And you know, my PhD experience is very white. It's very white. Almost all of the professors are white. I have 4 main professors. 3 of them are white. I have maybe 4, 5, 6, or 7 people I interact with as like students. Only one of them is not white, you know, not including myself. So I'm just constantly surrounded by it. And, you know, life was really hard when I first moved here. So, you know, I joined a show, and that's where Michal and I met, is we were acting in this kind of weird Alice in Wonderland production together. And even when we were in the show, there was still racial and ethnic issues, because there was 4 black people? 4 black actors. All of them were in Wonderland originally, and all of them were playing either animals or were playing like a woman who birthed a pig and was super aggressive.
And ugly.
Like ugly and like vile and just a nasty woman. And it was like, wait, hold on. We gotta say something about this, right?
We're in congregation, we're like, we see this, right?
Right.
And everybody's like, yeah, but we're lucky to be here. And it's so sad that we thought, like, and I don't know if you thought that, but like me, Jasmine, and Tavares just had that experience that we're lucky to even be here, because in our experiences, you didn't get roles.
Yeah.
Especially with such a small cast. Like there was like only like, what, 8 of us?
Something like that.
Yeah. There weren't a lot of us, and we were like, 4 of us are black? That's revolutionary.
That can't be right.
No, there were more.
There must be more. There were more white people.
There has to be more.
There definitely were more white people.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was, you're right. Yeah. You're right. And no, I didn't feel or think that. I will say it took me a while to realize
you did.
Y'all knew that longer than I did.
Yeah.
And I think that because at that point I was just trying to like make sure everything else wasn't problematic, that I didn't even consider that everyone was in like Wonderland and it was an issue, and like maybe black people don't exist in this world. Like odd. But it was something that I did bring up to, you know, our directors / writers, and that's something that I've run into a lot in I've been here not even a year. I haven't even been here a year. I've had to tell so many white creatives about the problematic.
Because they don't notice it.
There's so many
they don't notice
casting problems. I was doing this like experimental outdoor theater thing, and this woman was like, hey, first off, they gave the black directors all the black actors pretty much, right? So I had a group full of most of the black people that were in the production, which is not a lie. And she was like, oh, we had kind of talked a little bit about how black people are struggling on this campus and all this other stuff. Maybe y'all should talk about that more in your piece. And I'm like, no, how about we don't? Because I wanted them to have a space where they can play and they can feel comfortable and feel at home, and they don't have to be
non-black actors,
race revolutionaries all the dang time. Like, they deserve a space to breathe. And you're right, white actors, white performers, white creatives, they don't have to say, oh, I can't do this role because, like, this isn't gonna look good for my people. You know?
Like, they don't have to be a spokesperson for them.
Exactly. And that's so uncomfortable, especially, I'm glad you mentioned that y'all were like, well, like, we're happy to be here and everything. Because when you're 18, 19, 20, you're taught for so long. Y'all was raising y'all hands to use the restroom a year or two ago. So you certainly didn't learn, okay, excuse me, person in charge who is giving me opportunity. Can I tell you that you're being an ass? It just, you don't have that. And I just think it's really, so that's one of the things about being on a university that wasn't like necessarily built for you, is even the times where you do find spaces, you still have to wear so many more hats. Because everybody else just got to be actors. Everyone else just had to be like collaborators and stuff like that. And maybe there were issues where it was like, okay, wait, how are we representing this gender thing? Or how are we representing this sexuality thing? But on the whole, it was like, okay, wait.
I'm supposed to be ugly. Their fix was to take that out. which is okay, but then it made everything that I've learned, like that I've
that we were talking about and stuff, it just grounded. It was. And I feel like that's what happens a lot. It's like a lot of white people's solutions are Band-Aids for bullet wounds. And you're like, which granted,
you try. But it makes everything that I've created up to this point obsolete.
Right. And I'm at a time now in my life where I am not. I used to think it was a job to make sure that white people had like some sense of comfortability in your presence. I don't anymore. Like,
I think it like speed run for like my generation, because there was so much tension in 2020, and then we all sat at home thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then they were like, now go out into the world.
Yeah.
I hate you.
It is, and that's hard to balance. I see y'all where y'all like, I don't know how I'm supposed to, because that's true. I'm trying to think, 2016 was my sophomore year in college. So I saw that in my head for a while. I was like, oh, the world is better. Like, we've progressed. Things aren't where they're supposed to be. But on the whole, like, I had a genuine, deep belief that there were more good white people than there were bad white people. And at the very least, the bad ones had some sense of fear within them. So they would at least be quiet and bad. You know what I'm saying? And then 2016 happened, and I was like, oh, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was wrong. And then, like, as time has gone on, and then having like 2020 and the pandemic and like the BLM movement and everything, that number has shifted, right? Like, feeling like, okay, there's way more good than bad. Like, you're like,
yeah.
And it's hard, especially when you're surrounded by white people, because you're like, I don't know what's in there. Like, there's no scanner.
You keep keying, and then all of a sudden they say something, you're like,
something wild, and you're like, wait. And because I think the pandemic made us tired.
Yeah.
And exhausted. And so we're trying to be more protective of ourselves, because I'm like, I don't have the energy to put myself back together again. I was crying in the shower when Bozeman died. Like,
I can't do this no more.
I can't do it. So I have to be good enough to keep moving. And I think we also saw that, like, when it comes to schools are a business now.
Yeah.
Schools are a business, because they only make decisions that made sense for making sense. Because your bottom line was clearly worth more than everybody's health, wealth, and safety.
Yeah.
Because why are you sitting on a campus alone, looking at a computer that you could look at your house? Like, that's crazy.
And like, I won't say that they didn't try, but the thing is, I was switched. Like, my buildings were switched, because the building they put us in was run down and it was gross. And then COVID, so they were probably using the rest of the building to hold COVID members and all this other stuff. And so they moved us from our side of campus, from like the humanity side, where I probably would have had more
sense of community,
and opportunities. Like, hey, there's this writers workshop or something, into the STEM major side, where it was like, hey, come join us and we'll study calculus together. I'm not in calculus. So and it wasn't even like study calculus. It was just more like study together. And it's like, but I don't have any of your classes. Yeah. I don't know anyone. And instead of LSU being like, we know we did this to you, they kind of just
they do just like do that. They just throw you into different lines here. And I'm just like, wait a minute. Where's the sense of care? Where's the sense of compassion, the sense of concern? Because they made me move. Mm-hmm. Like, I did my first year of my PhD online from Texas because I was like, there's a lot going on. My mom was uncomfortable with me moving at that time, and so I did. And I was willing to do my second one like that too, because when we reopened, things weren't great. Things weren't good.
They were like, oh, put your mask on. It should be fine. And then COVID numbers went up.
Exactly. It was terrible. And so I feel like we saw that this place is not concerned with, like, our well-being. And it makes you anxious. It makes you angry. Because you're like, wait a minute. All this money, all this time, all this energy.
And they wonder why attendance is not up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many people ask me why are undergraduate attendance numbers so bad? And it's like, because you should. It's my time. I'm putting me first, Lucius. I have to put me first.
Because first of all, you're like saying you can curate your college lifestyle to be what you want. Yeah. And so they're like, okay, well, this is how I want it, and then college is like, no.
Yeah. No. And I think they missold it to us too. Where you're in high school, they're like, your college professor is not going to care whether you're in class or not. They're not going to care whether you turn yourself in or whether you're successful or da-da-da-da-da. And then you get here and you're like, wait a minute, I thought y'all wasn't going to hold my hand. So let go. like, let go. Like, and that's my wrist, you know what I'm saying? And then they're holding on in like ways that are having to do with policing you. Like, I want your body in class so that I don't feel like I'm here for no reason. So attendance needs to be mandatory. But also, if we look at like the amount of mental health providers that are on college campuses
for free,
listen, and like the student health center here charges like nobody's business, all kinds of stuff. So it's like, oh, you want to hold my hand in the ways that make you feel good, but when it comes time for how I need to be taken care of, it's like, oh, what? Lip wrist. Like, it's like, you're like, wait a minute, I thought we was holding
on. All right, I'll hold you. No,
they start looking like Titanic. I'll never let you go, and they gone. I'm just like, wait a minute, I don't like that. And I feel like I've seen enough college campuses at this point or gone to enough different universities that I kind of can see where the issues are and where the spaces that nobody are paying attention to, and the fact that schools are becoming commodities in a way that there's just no real sense of care and compassion. What I do think is really cool about you guys is like generation of students is that y'all really require the spaces that you're in to serve you in a way that we didn't even know we could do, right? Like, because y'all did start or survive like the pandemic and everything to this point, y'all are kind of like, why would I do that? I'm not gonna do that. And that wasn't us. Like, we were in our classes watching these professors basically give you like just grains of rice of validation and affirmation, and you're fighting for them, right? Like, I had one professor, and he was my favorite, but he would do his grades in like a sliding scale. So you didn't get your grade based on what you did on the test, you got it based on how you ranked in the class. So there was only like 5% that could have an A, or 5 people that could have an A, and you're taking this test trying to get an A, and like then the next 20 percentile could have like a B. Like, it was and you're fighting for it. I feel like there's a whole generation now that would be like, like you said, drop. Like I'm not gonna do it, and that's not how we were. Like
you got that.
Like
you can keep it all.
You can have your whole percentile, sir.
That's what. Well, that's not exactly what this professor was trying to do, but he was like we were asynchronous, so we had to listen to his lectures by ourselves, take notes by ourselves, and which is probably what people are like, well, that's college. But it was no, you were sitting alone, listening to this boring, droning voice about medieval English, and it was like boring. And then you take the midterm, and you're like, I don't know any of this,
right?
And you get a failing grade, and you're like, you know what? Let me email him. This is where I need help. And he said something like, maybe you should go to workshops because your email is unreadable. And it's like, I'm not asking you to rate my email. I'm asking you to help me. But since you won't do that, drop. Like, I'm not going to struggle in trying to think it's
don't speak to me.
Think it's me saying I can't do this. It must be me. And then other people in the class were basically doing the same things, with struggling, not knowing what was due, when it was due, how to do it.
Yeah.
And you're concerned about whether my email says hi with a comma or with a period.
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
And it's just for me, it's it must be power trips. You felt so much power telling me that my email was unreadable and that I should take writing courses in your gen ed English class.
Yeah. It's like, sorry, ain't I in your writing course? No, I feel you. And I was talking to somebody who's a professor here, and she was like, the freshmen and sophomores coming in, they didn't learn how to be college students. We didn't get to teach them how to be college students. And I was going back to my experience, and I was like, well, I don't remember anybody teaching me. But you kind of do. You learn, first off, you learn in these classes as a big group of what this is supposed to look like. And you have people next to you where you're like, wait a minute, what did he say? Are we gonna, yeah, okay, right? And you get that together in a way that staring at a computer. Also, I feel like we all determined a long time ago that computer learning isn't for everybody. That everyone doesn't retain exactly the same way. So I just think that that's insane too, is that everyone tried to act like you guys' productivity, and our productivity was supposed to be the same in vastly different circumstances than anyone in recent human history has dealt with. And then they got the gall to call y'all lazy, when most of them are having mental health crises, the likes of which they have not seen in their adult lives. They're clearly unwell. I don't know if this is happening on any of y'all, and y'all can comment. On your college campuses, are y'all seeing that professor boundaries are just not what they used to be? At all. My professors will talk to me, their marriage, the qualms that they feel with academia, the last time they felt the love of another things that I'm not. And I'm wait. Because y'all want to be peers, but y'all don't want to be peers when it comes to this grade. And I'm getting confused by it. So let's just not do it. And you want me to see you as a person, because you'll be okay, I had a paper, this man never gave me feedback for the paper, class is done, semester's over, never gave me feedback, and he want to tell me every time he has a mental illness and a physical illness and why he can't grade the paper. But if I'm
but you want me to do the paper,
right, and want to do the paper on time, I just think it's cool that you want me to care about you as a person, but where's my care as a person?
Right.
And that's what bothers me.
Yeah.
Is that there just seems to be this there's still so much imbalance on college campuses. Yes.
Right.
So I think we've gotten to that point of this episode. What is your moral of the story for this episode?
Moral of the story for this episode for me. Oh, no, I gotta think.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, let me think.
I just caught on.
Anyway, I think the moral of the story for me is that if you feel that your college experience is not serving you, you're probably right. And that I would hope and pray that you find the ways that it can. I had to do that in every school I've went to. I've had to I made a singing group with us and other Black people from the show we were telling you about, because I just felt like we needed a space where we could just be us and do what we like to do and be happy. So that's my moral of the story, is if it feels like it's not serving you, it's probably not, but there probably is a way to make it serve you, and you just have to figure out what that way is the best that you can.
I think my moral is maybe not adding on, but don't fight. Like, don't, and you're like, what do you mean? I mean, don't hurt yourself to get to a point where you feel great, because then you're hurting yourself. You shouldn't have to fight to do that. Let it come to you, and let it, like, I don't know how else to say that.
I feel like we need a whole episode on that.
Don't fight. like there's this stereotype where you have, like, Black women specifically have to fight.
That's a whole episode.
That's my moral. Don't fight. Okay. Let it be. Okay. That's my moral.
Bye, y'all. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do an episode.